You're watching a Highwire Media podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Big D Breakdown. I'm your host, as always, Larry Lease. Today we're diving into the latest headlines coming out of the draft and all the recent shakeups and changes the Dallas Cowboys have made. So before we do that, give us your thoughts on all the topics we covered in the comment section below and give us a thumbs up if you like our videos. So right off the bat, the Cowboys pulled off an NFL draft heist that ESPN analysts are buzzing with excitement. The national media loves to rag on the Dallas Cowboys, but analysts and reporters alike have had nothing but positive things to say about the team's NFL draft class. It's easy to be excited about the additions of Tyler Booker, Donovan Ezukru, and Shavon Revel, but one of Dallas's day 3 picks has generated arguably the most excitement of any selection. That player is none other than Texas running back Jaden Blue, who the Cowboys selected in the 5th round. ESPN analyst Louis Riddick, who was linked with some general manager vacancies earlier this offseason, compiled a list of the draft's most underrated players for every team and nominated Blue for America's team. The criteria for this list of players who Riddick believes can be a significant contributor or a starter within the next 2 or 3 years. It wasn't long ago that the Cowboys struck gold with Dayron Bland in round 5. Bland set the NFL record for most pick sixes in a season and is regarded as one of the best ball-hawking cornerbacks in the league. Bland, though, did not generate nearly as much buzz as Blue when he was drafted. While one of Javonte Williams or Miles Sanders will likely open the season as a starter, Blue's home run speed and short area explosiveness will give head coach and presumptive play caller Brian Schottenheimer no choice but to get him on the field. A former track sprinter, Blue clocked a 4:38 40-yard at the combine. That is ridiculously fast, but he claimed after the draft that he has sub 4.3 speed. Having long speed is one thing, but the former Longhorn has the requisite footwork and balance to force missed tackles. It is rare that Blue does not win a 1v1 matchup in the open field. Blue might have been more highly regarded in this draft if he hadn't stuck behind some ball carriers at Texas. In 2022, he was 5th on the totem pole behind Bijan Robinson, Sean Johnson, Jonathan Brooks, and Keelan Robinson. The following year, he was behind Brooks and C.J. Baxter. While Blue only started 5 games at Texas, he averaged an elite 5.4 yards per carry and caught 56 passes over the last 2 seasons. Despite competing with future NFL receivers Xavier Worthy, Adonai Mitchell, Matthew Golden, and Jordan Whittington for targets. For reasons out of his control, Blue is a player who hasn't come close to scratching the surface of his potential. Despite the lack of experience, multiple analysts have circled him as one of their favorite picks of the entire draft, with Riddick being the latest to join that bandwagon. So let me know, do you think these analysts are right or wrong? Do you think we're going to see quite a performance from Blue? Let me know. And now on to our next topic, of course. Cowboys wasted no time releasing a wide receiver after trading for George Pickens. Can you blame them? The Dallas Cowboys sent shockwaves around the NFL when they acquired wide receiver George Pickens from the Pittsburgh Steelers. It is a trade that, while it carries some risk, puts to rest any concerns about the team's offensive firepower, specifically the receiver position. All of a sudden, Dallas's wide receiver room is pretty deep. While not fully accomplished pass catchers, the likes of Jalen Tolbert, Jonathan Mingo, and Keontae Turpin are all serviceable depth options. It doesn't even take into account Ryan Flournoy, Jalen Brooks, and Paris Campbell. With a long jam of receivers, the Cowboys wasted no time trimming the group. To make room for Pickens on the 90-man roster, they released Seth Williams. 6th round pick for the Broncos in 2021, Williams notched 1 catch for 34 yards in 2 appearances as a rookie. He spent the subsequent 2 seasons on the Jaguars practice squad before moving to the Cowboys practice squad last season. It's unfortunate that Williams lost his roster spot as a result of the trade, but he had a little chance of making noise in Dallas. Again, this is a very congested group. In addition to the names mentioned earlier, the team has 2024 training camp standouts Kelvin Harmon and Jalen Moreno Cropper, as well as undrafted free agent signings, Trayshawn Holden and Josh Kelly. In a vacuum, the trade takes a lot of pressure off Jalen Tolbert and Jonathan Mingo to punch above their respective weight classes. Tolbert can feel more of a tertiary in the receiver room role, while Mingo can develop at his own speed instead of having to produce at a high level right out of the gate. After all, Pickens spent the last 3 seasons as the top target in the Steelers' offense. The former Georgia Bulldog only had one 1,000-yard season in Pittsburgh, but he was saddled with some pretty poor quarterback play. While he'll play the number 2 role next to CeeDee Lamb, he is more of a 1A than a 1B as far as talent. Williams was the first one to bite the bullet, but rest assured, he won't be the only wide receiver cut Dallas makes this offseason. And of course, following this trade, Jordan Lewis has said what all Cowboy fans were thinking after the Pickens trade. Often criticized for doing the bare minimum to address roster deficiencies, the Dallas Cowboys plugged their glaring hole at receiver by acquiring wide receiver George Pickens from the Steelers. While Pickens' arrival gives the offense a needed jolt at a crucial position, it is a bit head-scratching when you consider his off-field baggage. The 24-year-old has a penchant for letting his emotions get the best of him and made a habit out of showing up late to team meetings. He was even tardy to various games over his 3 seasons, according to Nick Harris of the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. The Cowboys should know all about Pickens' antics after he got in a kerfuffle with now former cornerback Jordan Lewis after Dallas' last-minute win in Pittsburgh last season. Now with the Jaguars, Lewis has a relatable reaction once he caught wind of the trade, saying, quote, on Twitter, confirmation, God wanted me in Jacksonville. After jawing with Pickens back and forth all game, Lewis displayed a little gamesmanship and celebrated Dallas' win on Sunday Night Football in Pickens' face. Nothing out of the ordinary in today's NFL by any means, but Pickens responded by yanking Lewis to the turf by his face mask. It was a sore loser move by Pickens, who is lucky Lewis was not injured. Ever a bulldog, Lewis popped right back up and was ready for a scrap. But the officiating crew intervened. The veteran cornerback ultimately got the last laugh on his way back to the locker room when he uttered, Pittsburgh need receiver George Pickens weak. Lewis played a huge role in limiting Pickens to 3 catches for 26 yards and 7 targets in the game. Pickens seemingly retaliated over that, and the fact he played just 34 of the Steelers' 58 offensive snaps. As for Lewis, he is likely thinking his lucky stars he won't be sharing a locker room with a former Steeler. And of course, we got to keep talking about this trade. Cowboys George Pickens trade makes things extremely awkward for Micah Parsons. The Cowboys George Pickens trade makes things extremely awkward for Micah Parsons. The Dallas Cowboys often get criticized for not making major splashes in free agency, so they deserve credit for swinging a blockbuster trade for star wide receiver George Pickens. A second-round pick of the Steelers in 2022, Pickens has racked up over 2,800 receiving yards and 12 touchdowns in 3 seasons. He represents a significant upgrade in Dallas's wide receiver room, and his play style is the perfect complement to CeeDee Lamb. The ultimate question, though, is what the front office decides to do about Pickens' contract. He enters the final year of his rookie deal in 2025 and joins a long list of extension-eligible players in a talented Cowboys locker room. That list is headlined by none other than Micah Parsons. While Jerry Jones and company will eventually budge and extend Parsons, the Pickens trade makes for an interesting and potentially awkward dynamic in North Texas. Excuse me. Earlier this offseason, Jerry Jones claimed not to know who Ongaheda in reference to his negotiations with Parsons. That is nothing more than Jerry looking for a headline, but the 82-year-old owner did not include in the initial round of negotiations with Parsons, which teeters on violating NFLPA protocol. That part is true and forced Parsons to intervene and ask Jerry and Stephen Jones to connect with Ongaheda, apologies for butchering his name, Epstein, according to Jory Epstein of Yahoo Sports. Epstein added that he had talks with the Cowboys director of salary cap and player contracts, Adam Brasifka, but Jones' antics prompted the all-pro pass rusher to state outright that a deal would not get done without the full involvement of his agent. It goes without saying that Parsons is the priority over Pickens. Heck, you can rattle off several players on the extension pecking order before you get to Pickens. Cornerback Daron Bland, Tyler Smith, Brandon Aubrey all come to mind. At the end of the day, Parsons knows his worth. He knows the Cowboys' defense would crash and burn without him terrorizing opposing quarterbacks. Whether it happens tomorrow or right before training camp, he'll sign on the dotted line for upwards of $40 million per year. At the same time, Pickens' arrival adds an unexpected wrinkle to the Parsons side of it. For a negotiation process that has already oozed dysfunction, that is less than ideal. And with this new Pickens trade, the Cowboys' updated wide receiver depth chart is simply beautiful. It felt inevitable that the Dallas Cowboys were going to make a big move for a wide receiver. Jerry Jones revealed as much after the 2025 draft. Just as fans talked themselves into an Amari Cooper reunion, the front office made a blockbuster trade for Pittsburgh Steelers star George Pickens on Wednesday morning. But Pickens comes with a lot of concerns, but that doesn't have anything to do with his talent. His catch catalog is as impressive as any receiver in the NFL. In terms of raw talent, Pickens has the ability to be a top 10 player at the position. That speaks volumes when you consider just how many star pass catchers exist in the league. It's too early to say if Dallas will give Pickens an extension. Like we mentioned, the former Georgia star is entering the final year of his contract, and a third-round pick is a lot to give up for a potential one-year rental. There will be plenty of time to discuss the bigger picture and potential long-term ramifications, though. What matters is how much Pickens upgrades the receiver room. Like we've mentioned, you got Lamb now, Pickens, Tolbert, Mingo, Turpin, Flournoy. The group is so much deeper now. Lamb is cemented as a top 5 player at the position. He belongs in the same tier as Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. Pickens, meanwhile, is a more talented version of former fan favorite Michael Gallup. While Gallup sadly flamed out with the Cowboys following his ACL tear, he used to be one of the most dynamic pass catchers in the game. A third-round pick in 2018, Gallup caught 66 passes on 113 targets for a little over 1,100 yards and 6 touchdowns as the clear number 2 for Prescott in his second year in the league. In Pickens' second year, he tallied 63 catches on 106 targets for almost a little over 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns, while leading the league with 18.1 yards per reception. It would be hard-pressed to name 5 number 2 receivers better than Pickens. The best part of the trade is that it demotes Tolbert to the number 3 role. Tolbert had a sneakily productive 2024 season, but he hasn't shown enough to be entrusted as Lamb's sidekick. The same goes for Jonathan Mingo, which Dallas acquired for a 4th-round pick at last year's trade deadline. While the team needs Mingo to perform, it is in everyone's best interest that he's not peppered with targets out of the gate. Pickens' arrival ensures that won't happen. At 6'3" with incredible leaping ability, ball skills, and body control, Pickens will command serious attention from opposing defenses. Between the play-calling quarterback and other pass catchers, Pickens' presence will make everybody's job on the field much easier. And it's still debatable who's the winner and loser of the Pickens trade, but it's clear that it only took one day for the Cowboys to lose the trade. The Dallas Cowboys may not have drafted a wide receiver with any of their premium picks in the 2025 draft, but they did manage to eventually land a nice compliment to CeeDee Lamb when they acquired George Pickens from the Pittsburgh Steelers via a trade centered around a 3rd-round pick in 2026. The Cowboys might be taking a calculated risk on a player who has had some ups and downs in his career, but it appears as though the same team that just traded a 4th-round pick for Jonathan Mingo is not regarded as someone who finds adequate value in the draft. ESPN's Seth Walder has already given the hypothetical win this trade to the Steelers, giving them a B+ in this deal while giving Dallas a B-. Walder has historically been a proponent of acquiring as many draft picks as possible, which likely influenced the lower grade on Pickens. The one saving grace for Walder is the fact that Dallas is going to let Pickens play out of the final year of his contract. which gives them more flexibility with regards to how he fits in the long-term picture. Pickens has recorded over 2,800 yards and 12 touchdowns in his three-year NFL career, despite the ghost of Russell Wilson standing out as the best quarterback he has played with in that span. Going to Prescott, even as a number 2 option, will be a huge improvement for him. Pickens hasn't had any off-field issues in his career, but he does have a temper that runs hot and has often impacted his play on the field. There's a reason Tomlin traded a 24-year-old receiver on a rookie contract, fresh off 2 great seasons, and Dallas might not be able to rein him in. Pickens proves himself and eventually manages to work out some kind of deal to stick in Dallas. The combination of his towering physical presence on one side and Lamb's dynamic playmaking on the other could be all this passing game needs to overcome the vanilla scheme of new head coach Brian Schottenheimer. The Cowboys gave up a pretty hefty 3rd rounder to acquire Pickens, but there is still time to prove Walter wrong and assert themselves as the winner of the trade if Pickens ends up fulfilling his potential as a prototypical X-receiver in Dallas' scheme. And that is it for this edition of the Big D Breakdown. Let me know your thoughts on all the topics we covered in the comment section below. And of course, if you want to support the channel, you can buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/thebigd. As always, thank you so much for watching and listening. We'll see you next time.